It's time to refresh your yard during spring backyard days at the Home Depot. Get low prices guaranteed on propane grills starting at $179, like the Next Grill 3-burner gas grill. Or get $50 off a select Weber Spirit grill and bring big flavor to your backyard. Then set the scene with Hampton Bay string lights that bring it all together. Shop spring backyard days for 7 days at the Home Depot, now through May 6th. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
You are tuned in to the Foul Weather Podcast, the forecast to your next successful hunt. Coming to you from the home office, Jack's Reef, New York.
Minnesota has seen substantial challenges in keeping wetlands and grass on the landscape for ducks. With this, duck numbers and duck hunter numbers have plummeted in Minnesota. The Living Lakes Initiative restores and protects wetlands and shallow lakes in Minnesota and Iowa, focusing on enhancing water quality and habitat for waterfowl in the Prairie Pothole Region. Today, we meet with Jake Chronister of the Living Lakes Initiative to learn more. Jake, welcome to the Foul Weather Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This will be fun. I'm excited.
Now, this isn't the first time our paths have crossed, and I'll admit I'm kind of mixing modes a bit here, but you were a student in my lab at the College of Environmental Science and Forestry in Syracuse, New York, also known as ESF for Environmental Science and Forestry. But you didn't come from New York, right? You ended up doing a bluebill banding project on Long Island with us. So first, let our listeners know how you came into the field of waterfowl conservation in the first place, and then how you ended up working with us on Long Island.
Yes, a fun story. I think my roots in waterfowl conservation really got started, I think, as most of us in the waterfowl world, in a duck blind. I grew up hunting with Dad, whether it was in a field for geese or on his shoulders as he walked me out to a public duck blind on the Illinois River. And I grew up, thinking I was going to play in the MLB and that was going to be my career, as most kids do. And as I got in high school, I realized that was everyone else's dream too and not real. So I started to think about what I enjoyed and what maybe would be a happy career, and kind of learned that being a biologist was the thing. I didn't even know it was a thing before. And I was like, that's me. I have a science mind. And so I went to the University of Illinois for a bachelor's degree. And during that time, there was waterfall's always been my thing, and wetlands, but during that, there was a field course that Heath Hagee led through the Forbes Biological Station. So for the whole spring break, we went to Central Illinois. There's maybe a dozen of us, and learned wetland and waterfowl ecology. Stayed at the bunkhouse there at Emiquon.
Oh man, I forgot this whole story. Keep going.
Yeah. So, but just everything we did, I loved it so much. Everybody I met there was awesome. They kind of, I think, acknowledged that I was a little more interested than the rest of the class, and leaned into that. And that was kind of just rocket fuel for my career. And Heath has been a good kind of mentor a little bit from afar, just even looking at what he's done and how he's done. And he's given me some advice along the way. And I know you guys are best friends too. So just a small world. But from there, I went on and did a bunch of like seasonal things, short term, whether it was habitat work or working for grad students, banding ducks, everywhere from the prairies of eastern South Dakota to the wintering grounds in Alabama. I spent a winter on the Tennessee River, putting transmitters on ducks. I did a lot of habitat work in Missouri, Illinois, through the mid-continent there. Staging wintering areas. So I really got to see how it all works on the landscape, and how, the agencies and such manage and research birds at all stages of their life cycle. Was really helpful.
And you did this in pretty short order, because you didn't come to us, that old. So like, what was about the length of each one of these positions you had, you think?
Yeah, 3 to 6 months. Was I moved around pretty quick. And for listeners, like, getting a master's degree excuse me, in the waterfowl world or biology in general is kind of critical to getting a permanent job. And getting those master's degrees are kind of like getting a job. It's not just sign up and hope the school accepts you. There's a lot more to it. And so the whole time I'm applying to grad school and figuring out what it was exactly maybe I was super interested in and learning about myself. And I can remember you and I talking. I was working in Missouri when we did our interview for that bluebill project I did, and I think you and I talked for like 40 minutes about nothing and like just regular BS that you'd have with your neighbor over a beer, and we just hit it off. And
Yeah,
like
my
that's
interview process is not formal.
right, and
Good.
like that's
Yeah.
what I look for in people I want to work with and work for, and I loved it. And so I was set to come to New York. We hit it off, and I enjoyed my time out there a lot. Syracuse, or both in Syracuse and Long Island. I find that over here in Minnesota and elsewhere, people don't realize like Syracuse isn't New York City,
Hmm.
and it's like 260 miles away to and totally
Right.
different.
Right.
And so I have to explain that a lot. So I think it was worth mentioning that those experiences were totally different. And but yeah, my project I caught bluebills in the ocean, basically, off Long Island, and put leg bands on them, and then we used all that data to do some analysis while I went back up to Syracuse and did schooling in analysis. And that was like 2018 and 19, or mostly through
Yeah, it
2019.
it feels like yesterday, but it was a couple days ago, right? So,
Hmm.
what like out of Long Island? I mean, give folks a feel for that because you were about out pretty far east, right?
Yes,
And
I was way
on
east,
Long
maybe two
Island,
hours
and
from the
then
city.
yep, yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and I was really surprised that it gets pretty rural. I mean, there's a lot of people, but there are farms, and they like to say that it's not the city and say that it's rural. Like, it's important to them that it's not the city.
Right.
And people are in touch with nature there, but it's maybe looks a little different than what you and I do. There's a lot of hunting.
Hmm.
There's a rich hunting culture there, absolutely. But there's a lot of people that just like to walk down to the beach and look at all the ducks in the bay too.
Right. Right. And they appreciate it even though if they don't hunt. And heck, I remember saying, I think they called all the bluebills mallards or something. Like there's only one kind of duck, right? So
Right,
it's not
right.
like they're, but there's, I mean, at least they're in tune a little bit with it. But it's definitely not the Midwest and such. It's busy, but it is fun to drive. I wouldn't, okay, it's not fun to drive through the city, but once you leave the city and you start to
Yeah,
hit Eastern Long Island, you're like, wow, this is not as much of a mess. There is a fair amount of, it's funny, like the cornfields, the corn stays there to feed animals mostly because there's like no export location for it most of the time and there's just not enough of it. But then there's like all
hmm,
this like hobby farm, like pumpkin farm culture. There is still a duck hunting culture there, although it has waned a little bit over the years, but black ducks still rule on Long Island.
yeah,
And a lot of folks that live off the ocean, clammers and fishermen and stuff too, continue to exist out there. So,
yeah.
really
The
glad for
seafood.
you for that experience and the and then the end of the things in Central New York. And you hunted here a fair bit too during your off season. I'm thinking, as far as I recall, you and
Yeah,
Aiden
I had
and others
two,
hunted quite a bit.
I think two seasons, two hunting seasons there.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty. I enjoyed it. Upstate New York was fun. There's your public land system's great. Lots of places to go. Lots of accessibility. Yeah.
And no one should come here. It's fine. It's fine. I don't. We're not going to give out secrets. We're not going to give your secrets out over there in Minnesota either. So remind our listeners about how you landed your current position, and maybe let our
Yeah.
listeners know
So
how
when
you're kind of
I
working to save ducks as well.
Yes, when I was there at my end of my schooling in upstate New York, I was really getting into the mindset of, all right, where do I want to move? Where do I want to start a career and my life? And I grew up in Northern Illinois, in rural Northern Illinois, in the Midwest, very Midwest culture. Minnesota's the same, really Midwest culture. Here we drink Busch Light and eat ranch on everything.
Oh,
And
you're killing me with
when I was in New
ranch.
York, it was Labatt's Blue and blue cheese dressing, and it just wasn't home. And so
Mhm.
when I was in that job search, I said I realized all these things, and I want to be in the Midwest. And so I expanded my search, and then I think I had like 9 interviews in a week scheduled for the same week, and it was the same week that COVID hit, and they all were
Mhm.
canceled, and I was just scrambling. And the believe it or not, the only place still hiring was the federal government. So I landed with the USDA working for the NRCS as a wetland biologist in Marshall, Minnesota. And I moved out here on a new adventure, and I love Southwest Minnesota and the prairies. It's fantastic. Long winters, but I'm a summer guy. I like the summer. But anyway, so I didn't love my day-to-day with the NRCS, but I liked being out here, and I quickly jumped into this role with Ducks Unlimited in 2023. And I've been here since. I'm based out of Windham, Minnesota, and I'm officed with the Fish and Wildlife Service in the Windham Wetland Management District. And I kind of cover everything from South Dakota to the edge of the prairies to the east, which is like Albert Lee, if someone looks at a map,
Hmm.
up
Okay.
north to about the Minnesota River. And since I'm right here on the Iowa line, I dabble into Northwest Iowa. But as we'll get into, northern Iowa or just Iowa in general, it doesn't have the conservation funding that Minnesota does. So we just don't have as robust of a program there.
Not as big of a presence. And that's an interesting point. Detail that, like what the difference is. Like, so you're working a lot with NAWCA funds, North American Wetland Conservation Act funds, and that needs match that's not federal money for wetland restoration, right? So is there
Mhm.
like I'm leading you into this because I kind of have a sense for it. I don't know all of it, but like Minnesota has state funding that Iowa doesn't. Is that right?
Yes, yes, and I can get into that. And I think one step higher. So our Living Lakes initiative really kicked off in 2004 in Minnesota and in Northwest Iowa. It extends into Iowa. And we really focused on like shallow lakes for diving duck spring migration.
Mm-hmm.
And we had like Lake Christina was like our flagship. So we focused all really on like one area. And then in 2008, the state of Minnesota passed the Legacy Amendment. So it was amendment to our constitution to increase our sales tax for conservation. And so in 2012, after that passing, we really expanded our Living Lakes initiative to focus on including breeding habitat and land acquisition with all these extra funds, which is way more than I think most states do. The Legacy Amendment is just what it's the Clean Water Land and Legacy Amendment is the full
Mm-hmm.
name. But Minnesota citizens voted on this like referendum style. So this was not done by legislators. This was put on the ballot and everyone had to vote yay or nay. And the premise of it is that we raise sales tax 3/8 of 1%, and all the money goes to this into 4 different funds. One of them is the Clean Water Fund. One is the Parks and Trails Fund. One is for arts and culture. Um, that one is like a lot of libraries, a lot of like in my little town where I live of 3,000 people, there's a little arts center. And this thing is like run on grants from this arts and culture fund. And then, but a third of the whole amendment income goes to the Outdoor Heritage Fund, which is solely for restoring, protecting, enhancing wetlands, prairies, forests, and habitat for fish, game, and wildlife. It's not for parking lots. It's not for trails. It
Mm-hmm.
it is for habitat work, guided by the best and most recent science that's out there. And it's given out in grants. So there's a nonpartisan citizen council annually. This year, there will be $160 million that they will be giving away in grants for people to do good work. And I try to put this in context because that's a lot of money, but you may not understand, I guess, the average listener. So the Minnesota DNR and most DNRs run on like license sales.
Hmm.
The Minnesota DNR only makes 60 million in license sales. So this is like two and a half, almost three times
Wow.
what the DNRs run on. And if you were to include like the Pittman Robinson and Dingle Johnson taxes, the DNR still only has like $140 million.
Hmm.
So this is an extra 160 to supplement our standard DNR and Fish and Wildlife Service projects programs,
Yeah, that's
uh, which is
substantial.
which is really awesome. And that is the bread and butter of like our funding and programs and why we do so much work here in Minnesota. We we have four main programs that we use this Outdoor Heritage Fund money for. We get about 10 to 15 million dollars annually from here. So we have four main flavors, as I like to call them, for main programs here in Minnesota. We have land protection. So we get $4 to $6 million annually to buy poor farmland, and we restore that. These are poor farms that are full of wetlands. Maybe it's a drained lake. There are like unlimited drained lake basins in southwest Minnesota that we can purchase and plug the ditch and restore them. We have an enhancement and restoration of currently protected lands. A good example of this is like in the like west central Minnesota, when the Fish and Wildlife Service started purchasing easements and WPAs with duck stamp dollars in the 70s and 80s. They didn't really have funds for restoration, nor like great science on how to do it. So they just planted it back to grass and plugged some ditches. But most of these are full of potholes, like seasonal temporary wetlands, which are the main driver for duck production. So we have a team of 8 field biologists that are spending our funds to restore all these potholes out there on existing protected lands. So that's what we call an enhancement and really a restoration. We have a Fish and Wildlife Service easement program. So we purchase and restore easements for the Fish and Wildlife Service. This kind of supplements what the service does with your federal duck stamp dollars. And for those not super in the know, when the service spends your duck stamp dollars to protect land, they can't use that money to restore it. So we're coming in to do the restoration on a lot of those bigger projects. And then the fourth flavor, we have a really, really unique partnership in southern Minnesota that I help lead with the Fox Lake Conservation League. It is Martin County. It's one county is where they focus. Just a group of conservationists that said, you know what, our land is almost 100% drained and converted, and we want clean water. We want more areas to recreate. We partner with them.
Hmm.
They go to this Outdoor Heritage Fund grant, and in the last 10 years, they've got over $20 million and they've put over 2,000 acres back on the land. And the details of that are they purchase the land and then we lead the wetland restoration and the upland restoration with portions of that grant. And
So
go
this
ahead.
this really sounds like I mean 4 points that just about I mean the intent of this is to hit everything, right? Like where can we have the greatest impact on the landscape for ducks in general?
Yes, and it's very strategic. We're not just buying random things out and about when we do land protection. It's building onto complexes and um, maybe a mile from a complex, but it's a big lake that's drained, and we're buying a puzzle piece
Hmm.
to fit it all together.
And the other thing I like about it is it's not like a top down, like a eminent domain thing of like we're gonna push this on you. It has to be matched with state dollars from the local region. It has a private lands component to it as well, and so it's a little more holistic than a like top down. We're just preserving stuff and taking things out of farming, and not a lot of it is not taking prime farmland. It's stuff that landowners themselves kind of maybe are really in agreement with for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe just kind of summarize what I'm stumbling around there because I think you have a
Yeah.
better feel for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it on the head, even though you stumbled. It's willing
Thank you.
sellers. It's willing sellers. A good example is last week I met with the neighbors to one of our projects to show them our plans because we're gonna mess with all the drainage tile and it crosses the boundaries. And the first thing the guy said was, "You should buy my land because this is one heck of a wetland that you could restore, and I don't need to be farming this." And everything's at fair market value.
Hmm.
These are not paying buku bucks for things that we shouldn't be buying. It's
Yeah, you
not
can't
prime farmland.
underbuy. It's called yellow book prices or something, right? It's like that. It's like you can't you can't undercut them. You can't pay them pennies on the dollar, and you can't just pay like way over. You have to keep because it affects the land market in general. So you can only
Right. So
pay what it's assessed at.
yeah, so we get everything appraised by a third party appraisal,
Hmm.
and we use that to negotiate a price with the seller. And if they want to donate a big chunk of the land value, and we buy it really cheap, and they know willingly donate that value, then that's a tax break for them because we're a nonprofit.
Yep.
But it doesn't happen often. It's usually at fair market value. But I will circle back, I guess, to where you started with the NAWCA. So NAWCA is another funding source, which is the federal wetland conservation grant that's out there. And this is bread and butter for most DU programs throughout the U.S. And in Minnesota, we usually get $2 to $3 million in grants from the federal government for wetland work to supplement our outdoor heritage fund state grant money. And but really most important dollars that we have are from our major sponsors and our members.
Oh, oh goodness. It looks I think we lost Jake a little bit. Yep. We did. And actually we're coming back uh the next day to finish this up. We had a little technical difficulty and the internet went down at the farm on Jack's Reef, but we got Jake back on the line here today. So I guess Jake, let's take a break from the nuts and bolts of your work and just talk weather conditions for a bit. I know you hunt quite a bit. So, what was last season like in your part of the world? And I think you hunt over into the Dakotas a little bit too. So, give us a feel for that.
Yeah, last season, I think I had a similar experience of most folks in southern Minnesota and throughout the Dakotas that it was probably less than average harvest. I harvested about half the ducks normal. I hunt quite a bit. I don't have any kids yet, so I have quite a bit of free time. But it was kind of warm and stale. And then right there before Thanksgiving, we got a sudden freeze, which is pretty typical around the end of the season, but we didn't really have that cold flurry in mid-October to really give us new ducks that's that Halloween movement, that Halloween
Hmm.
storm system is what I call it. And it's pretty reliable for good hunting, but it just wasn't this year.
And you said something interesting to me is like the U.S. prairies were kind of dry and guys didn't produce as many ducks as maybe up in Canada and the boreal. And you feel like you do better when you've got local birds to shoot because they're more reliable, right? The migrants might just blow right by you on a weather event. So is that
Yeah.
kind of your feel that you just didn't have the local birds to bang away at for the most part that hurt you most?
Yeah, we definitely were very dry going into last spring, and we did get pretty wet throughout the summer, but it was too late, and the Dakotas were the same. And most of our duck production happened up in Canada in the boreal. And I don't know exactly the nuts and bolts of why, but I've tended to notice when the prairies are wet, my season in Minnesota is better than when the ducks overshoot it and are coming from up north. There could be better, just it is better production when they stay in the Dakotas, but um, maybe it's a little bit of a stopover thing where they land on once they make their first jump. Just doesn't align with where I'm at, maybe. Uh,
Yeah,
But
we
that's
jumped on the phone. We jumped on the phone yesterday after we got broken up by the bad internet. I was trying to figure out. My wife was working at home too, and I still heard her on a call. And I'm like, "How are you still on?" And she's like, "No, I took the rest of the call entirely on my phone. I was talking to my phone for my whole
uh,
meeting." But you and I just jumped on our phones afterwards, and I kind of felt like looking at the drought maps that you're, southern Minnesota and Iowa are super dry right now. But you kind of said little different than that, and maybe it was just extreme like southwest Minnesota and into Iowa, and that maybe the Coteau and the Dakotas and then the more hilly country in Minnesota weren't as bad. So, give us a man, tell us something rosy because we haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, if you look at the drought monitor, at least what I looked at yesterday, it's like the severe drought is those far southwest two counties, and most PPR maps don't even include those counties, and we don't
Mhm.
do a lot of work there. They're kind of on the side of the ridge, the Buffalo Ridge there, and it's just there's not many wetlands and lakes anyway. But as you get out of that, things are good and things were wet going into last fall. And I think you hear that often that kind of fall soil conditions really matter as much as like what rains and snows come in March and April. And we were generally moist over the summer, especially as you get into like west central Minnesota. That kind of Morris area
Mhm.
was extremely wet going into last fall. And if you take that west into South Dakota, kind of Waubay through Aberdeen was extremely wet. And I think you're going to see really good conditions in seasonal wetlands there. I asked the biologist further north of me, and they said the same thing. What seasonals exist that aren't drained are wet, and
Mm.
that's how it is down here. And in Minnesota, it may not be much because we've lost most of it, but
Mm.
um, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, you guys are just a little more like I've driven across that part of the world enough and lived out there in northeast South Dakota. I mean, the Coteau is just harder to drain and it's harder to put stuff. I mean, and there's still wetland consolidation. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast. But like Minnesota, it's easier to drain in general, and it was kind of the first stuff, to
Mhm.
go. So as you get into the Coteau and towards Aberdeen and stuff, those ephemerals might be hanging on a little more, kind of than
Mhm.
elsewhere. And as you know, like, well, and what's going to be cool for you, Jake, is if you stay out there, at some point, you're going to see the system get completely overwhelmed. And it's like, it doesn't matter how much you drain at some point, at least the way we're in drainage now. I mean, drainage is bad, but when that wet really comes, it just overwhelms that system. It's super frustrating to farmers. You can see why they do drain it. But I hope we're moving back into that cycle. But what I like is, when I just look at straight up drought maps, I think that's about more of the soil moisture, and it doesn't always speak to what's going on in the basins there. That they're
Mhm.
called potholes for a reason. They just hold water for extended periods of time, especially if you're in a wet enough cycle, right? So, and it's kind of like an accumulation. It's not just snowflakes. It's that wet in the summer. It's this long-term cycle of getting water back. So it sounds like we're on the right side of the slope right now. I hope. Let's hope it keeps going that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think like that 21 through 23, you couldn't have got drier 3 years in a row, and it just wasn't great. So there's nowhere to go but up. And I agree with the comments that once it's too wet no matter how much you drain. Uh,
Mhm.
I just hope that holds true. And when it gets wet
I
again,
know.
we haven't lost too many. And
Well, and
fingers
that's what
crossed.
you
We're doing the
guys are
best we can.
doing. That's what you guys are doing with living lakes and such. And I know we talked about Naka before we got busted up by the internets there. So, and we started talking about, DU puts in private funds, but there's, federal and state dollars involved there. So maybe express to what extent the philanthropic dollars through DU play a role. And then in that process of restoration, right? Like, who are the players, the engineers, the biologists, like the contractors? Who are they? Where are they located? How does this get done? How do the dollars flow, and then how does it get done on the ground?
Yeah, yeah. So all of our grants that we get that I mentioned all require match, which is you saying, I am bringing $1 million to this project. Could you give me $200,000? And you got to have money to start with somewhere, and that's where our major sponsors and our members and all of our donations come in, and it really catalyzes our efforts out here. So a good example to say this differently is in Minnesota, we spend about 15 million annually on habitat work. Only $1 million of that is donations, but we're able to turn that $1 million into 15 million.
Mhm.
So it's exponential growth. Maybe some of those donations didn't buy prairie native wetland seed that we planted, but we are able to use it where it matters to get those grants and to get all that extra money. And it's really awesome. Um, I never realized that till working for DU and managing the budgets. I guess I had a real paradigm shift. You always think about it as, well, how much of my dollar is going into the project? You know, you might think about that if you donate to any nonprofit, but thinking about it doesn't maybe matter exactly how they use it. If they can turn it into 15 times as much, like that is a great story.
Mhm.
And I'm proud to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I track this stuff really well, and there is that conspiracy out there of like, DU is just this bloated organization that pays executives, and you'll see online like what the executives make, and I'm like, well, what should a CEO of like one of the
Right.
largest conservation organizations in North America make, right? Like that's a heavy lift. Like this thing is a giant machine. But the point is like it sounds like you guys are doing 15 to 1 out there, but it's typically like 8 to 1 or better, right? So you're bringing a dollar forward and
Yeah.
leveraging $8 to, and you're saying like 15 in Minnesota,
Yeah. Yeah. It
possibly
definitely
because of the
varies.
states. It does vary, right? And it varies by project and location and things like that.
Absolutely.
But, and I'm not going to mince words. I mean, my wife works for DU, but I also then get it. Like, I'm not the person sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out like how it functions, right?
Hmm.
And I like you could and also Jake, you know this, when you're in the inside of something, you can get really jaded about it as well. But
Absolutely.
man, I mean, there's things in every organization, but to me, it's way on the positive side compared to everything else. Now, are
Yes.
you guys restoring stuff too? Is there some of that going on, like pulling drain tile and restoring hydrology? And do you have engineers involved in that? And are those your own DU engineers involved, or how's that stuff work with y'all?
Yes, yes, our Living Lakes initiative is in full restoration mode. And I say that like in comparison to the Protect Our Prairies initiative in the Dakotas is preservation.
Hmm.
It's mostly preserving what exists. In Minnesota, we lost it all. We're trying to put back.
Hmm.
And what a typical project looks like, um, I could take like a land protection project as a good example, where maybe we work with a willing seller and we buy a really poor farm with a lot of drained wetlands, and maybe it's adjacent to an existing state wildlife management area. And so it's just a win-win-win for all, the whole concept. And then we work with our DNR partners or the Fish and Wildlife Service and what are their goals on the project. But, generally we align. They're doing
Hmm.
duck habitat work out here. And in Minnesota, we have such extensive drainage that most farm fields are affected by county or public drainage systems. So like they're basically government drainage ditches and large drainage tiles, and
Yep.
everyone pays in, and a local government unit oversees them, and they're protected by state law. And these are very complicated, altered hydrologic, regimes, and it takes engineers to figure out how do we put the wetlands back and allow the neighbors to have the same drainage that they always had.
Yeah,
If
not
not,
flood them and not flood
not
them,
flood
right?
them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if not, it's almost always improves the drainage for the neighbor because we're taking so much water off the system. We are usually able to outlet all the neighbors' tile into our projects and have like a
Hmm.
nice free flowing outlet. It stores it, it cleans it, the sponge that wetlands are before
Hmm.
we release it back into the drainage system to go downstream. And so DU has we hire engineers. I think nationwide we have about 100, and we
Hmm.
have 8 in Minnesota. So nearly 10% of our
That work with you specifically, right? That are
yep,
DU
they
employees.
they are DU employees. We have an
Yep.
office
Yep.
in West Central Minnesota near Alexandria.
Hmm.
and they're all housed out of there, and they cover our pretty much exclusively work on Minnesota projects.
Yeah, and their
And
days are full like yours. It's my sense, and from talking with you before we got on here, you almost need more capacity. Like there's like you can't do all the work that you need to do almost. Is that your feeling still?
yeah, yes, we certainly turn many projects down and or have to tell partners like, yes, we can do that, but it'll be in 2030.
Right.
And
Wow.
we have 22 staff in Minnesota in our Living Lakes initiative. We have 8 engineers. We have 8 like entry-level field biologists that are working on most exclusively like pothole restorations on uh, WPAs. So the service, I kind of explained this before, but has purchased public lands in the 70s and 80s. They weren't fully restored.
Hmm.
They're out there doing the good work, bringing those WPAs back to life.
So waterfall production areas bought with duck stamps that still need restoration on them, and that's what you're now delivering.
Yep, yep.
Hmm.
And then we have 2 regional biologists, so myself and Logan out of Fergus Falls, and then we have 2 managers. And we also have 3 agriculture staff. So DU has this ag sector now, our working land stuff, and those 3 are mostly working with USDA programs, partnering with the NRCS
Hmm.
to help get USDA programs on the ground. Um, 2
Nice.
are focused at grazing work.
Hmm.
Um, what's the saying? Ducks like cows, not plows. So
Yes, for
we
sure.
lean into that.
Row crops no bueno. Cows step on a nest once in a while, but
Yes.
there's at least grass, and it does
And then
produce ducks. Yeah.
in southern Minnesota we have Liam is our ag guy, and he there's not a lot of grazing in southern Minnesota. It's mostly crops. And so
Hmm.
he works on soil health and some cover crops in different programs. And his saying is ducks migrate, soil shouldn't. And he's
I
got
love it.
bumper stickers. And so that's our ag motto here in the Living Lakes Initiative.
Man, I love it. I love it. And I was going to ask you a question about like how much you work, but I'm going to answer it for you because I know it's not a normal work day. And you're probably pulling, if you're anything like any other DO employees, I know you're pulling like 60-hour weeks very, very often and just about always 40 to get stuff done. So, uh, Jake, just really appreciate what you're doing. And we're going to take a quick ad break and we're going to keep rolling and chat more Minnesota and prairie ducks. My friends across duck country, time to step up your calling with Beckman Game Calls. These beauties sound like a duck. Just have a listen. First, a real hen mallard, and then the Edison in the flooded timber of Arkansas. Beckman Game Calls with a lot of new colors and woods coming soon. Both the Edison and the Groundbreaker calls are adjustable to your air pressure, and the Groundbreaker is the first adjustable cut down on the market. Check out Beckman Game Calls today at beckmangamecalls.com. All right, my friends across duck country, we are going to talk with Jake more about kind of his experiences in the prairies, maybe some secrets to prairie pothole hunting because he's had some pretty darn good success without giving away his own places. But we're going to run into this duck duel thing and see how Jake does.
Mm.
Our other folks were a little more. I don't want to say that you're not seasoned. You're very good at what you do, but they were. I'll go with seasoned as in older than you, but it may have more years thinking about the how everything changes, through time. But what we're doing is the over under. We're doing this duck duel thing. I say it's the official betting platform of the Foul Weather Podcast, but there is no betting. So I want to officially say, like legally, we are not betting. You're not winning anything. But if you know how over unders work from betting, Jake, in general, you just
I've done
pick
some
the.
betting.
Oh, you've done. I actually have not. So I just picked this up from listening to people. I stay away from it. Actually, no, I've done The lottery. That's about it. That is my retirement plan, to be fair. So, but I'm going to give you a question with a number. It might be harvest number, sex ratios, maybe BPOP estimate, and you have to tell me if you think the number will come in over or under the number we provide. And so it's all like going to be the BPOP stuff from this summer, habitat conditions for this summer, or harvest from last year, the 25-26
Okay,
season. So you all set for it?
bring it on.
All nervous?
My palms are sweaty.
Oh boy. All right. Mallard harvest in Arkansas for last season, 25-26. The over under is a 500,000.
I think over. Do you
Yeah.
need explanations or no?
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you want to
I
kind of give me a feel why you think so, I think it's helps the listeners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think most ducks are shot around opening day, or at least over half of them.
Hmm.
And I know Arkansas had a heck of an opening day. When we got cold and froze and the ducks were gone, was just prior to their opening day. And I think maybe they had a tough January, but I think their opening days were good. That's where I'm
There
coming
you
from.
go. There you go. I like it. Most of these are like near last year's numbers. I think I tweaked a few of them a little bit, but they're like near last year's numbers. So you
Yeah.
can kind of like get a feel for like whether it should be over or under last year. Total duck population in the traditional survey area, so mid-continent stuff for this coming year, 32 million.
And this is breeding, not fall flight.
Correct. Total duck breeding Yeah, yeah. Thanks for being picky. Yes, it is breeding.
I just want to make sure.
You're good.
I would say over.
Yeah.
I had a positive outlook on breeding conditions, so I'll have to stick with that.
Yeah, the only thing that gets me, I think, is like that whole, compensatory mortality thing. I mean, these birds, just mostly hens, are dying during the summer on the nest and stuff. I mean, the level of mortality in the summer, the breeding season, is really
Yeah.
substantial. But it was pretty dry lots of places, and these ducks were pretty jammed up. So there might have been just some, you know, disease, other predation, and mortality in the winter that we're not sending as many back, possibly. But I don't know. Like we will see. Let's go with that. But I think it's got to be on the upswing. That's my hope. We're going to come back to the east for you. The mallard population in the eastern survey area, estimated abundance 1 million.
1 million. Well, you said you didn't harvest too many, so maybe you left some there. I'll say over.
All right, good stuff. We know harvest doesn't drive populations, by the way, so overall, but it might affect what comes back. It just doesn't drive the population overall.
Right.
Yeah, we're kind of hurting. I've been seeing more birds around, lots of them in puddles and fields. We're working real hard to drain. I'll put drain tile in all those puddles in our fields over here too. But I did see, if I think, a few more this year, so I'm hoping it's over. All right, Louisiana, the folks that are belly aching about no ducks. Louisiana total duck harvest for 25-26, 1.3 million total
Mm,
duck harvest.
I say over. I say
You got a
over.
lot of optimism in your
I
in your
I think that
opinion
is back to my
today.
opening day statement.
Hmm.
I think they had good opening weekend, and that's what really drives harvest.
Now, did the mallards make it all the way there? Because number five is not total duck harvest, but just mallard harvest for Louisiana for last year at 70,000.
No, no. When I followed the Follow Weather podcast last year, you said they never got south of Missouri, so I'll say no. Is that
Okay.
right? I followed that
Yeah.
pretty
Well,
close.
I think I don't know if last year, the year before was like 50,000, but I think 70 might be a little heavy for them. They were shooting a few more mallards. It did get a little rusty cold there in January. I think that pushed a few in. Um, but we will see. We will see. I'm really not sure of some of these, honestly. Let's see where they come in. This is a fun one for South Carolina. Immature to adult age ratios last year, two immatures per adult.
Is this
And
the like game farm release story?
yeah, if you've listened, have you listened to the other pods with us?
No, I
You
just felt
just
like I think
okay.
you've told me this one in the past when you like right when you found
Yeah,
out, you're like, can you believe this? And I kind of remember that
the
comment.
mallard
But
age ratios. Yeah.
so I guess if a bunch of wilds showed up, it might skew it back to even.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the idea? I don't know. I'll say under.
Okay. Yeah, you're on the right path there. And first of all, you're supposed to say you listen to every episode of the podcast when you. No, I'm just
Sorry, I
kidding.
listen to every episode of the podcast,
You're
and
fine. You're
everyone else
fine.
should too.
You're fine. It's no big deal. Um, I think it might be over because usually you're at like one or under when you get that far south, and like North Carolina is like zero point 0.8 to one, immatures to adults because we've killed all the immatures. But then
Mhm.
every bird they release in South Carolina is an immature, and your immatures to adults jump. Like one year it was five. Like that's
Mm.
that's not a thing,
Mhm.
right? Five immatures to adults. Um, so you might have missed that one on the under, but who knows? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they wised up and didn't release mallards in South Carolina. No,
Times are tight.
they definitely did. So California, we're going to mallard harvest for last year, 150,000. And remember, the West was really, really warm.
And so if 150 was the number 2 years ago, then maybe
Yeah.
this year was under.
Yeah, and they also used to produce a lot of their own mallards, but wetland policy over there is really and lack of
Mhm.
rice acres and stuff has really buggered them up. So there's no mallard habitat really
Mm.
in California anymore. It's not there's none, but it's just definitely
Yeah.
declined. And then from a migration standpoint, not so hot either. All right, on to a little bit of habitat stuff. May ponds and prairie in Parkland, Canada. So that's like that, prairie Parkland region of the traditional survey area, and then also that north central U.S. So it includes the Dakotas, Montana. So May ponds in that area, 4 million.
Over.
Yeah, I already typed it by the way. So
Good.
all right, this is a fun one because all the belly aching from Louisiana folks. I'm kind of hammering on this because I feel like it's fun type of thing. They shot about 1.3 million ducks last year, and so that was the over under for Louisiana for number four. So number nine, Atlantic Flyway total duck harvest is 300,000.
300.
So Louisiana shot 1.3 million, Atlantic Flyway 300,000. So total duck harvest for last year is 300,000 in the Atlantic.
Did you guys didn't have any, your bag limit change was a while ago, right? When you went back up, or was that just this year?
No, that was a couple years ago for four
Okay.
mallards. We're still at six ducks. Yeah, we're still at
Then
six
I'll
ducks.
say under.
Okay, there you go. We were really dry in lots of places, so it concentrated birds further south. They overflew us big time. So, all right, the big number here: Mississippi Flyway total duck harvest 6.4 million. This is your number 10.
Yeah, while I think opening days were good, I want to say under total under.
Under. Okay. So opening days were good, but then ducks got stale. It's possible because again, like there was a big swath of super dry stuff where people struggled last year for sure. So, all right, Jake, we got your over unders. We'll see how you stack up against the other experts this coming summer season. I don't know when all these numbers are going to come out. I got to get all these in, as many of these as I can get in with guests before we run into that. But you're going to be in a big Excel spreadsheet with everybody else and see what happens. So, up next, Jake talks about secrets to prairie pothole hunting success. We all know that feeling. Every waterfowl hunter knows the feeling. You're motionless in the marsh at first light, watching birds work the spread, hoping this season is as good as the last, hoping that the future has birds working the spread for generations to come. At the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, the mission is simple: to guarantee all Americans quality places to hunt and fish. For waterfowl hunters, that means safeguarding habitat and migration corridors and creating more places to hunt, so strong fall flights and good hunting opportunities aren't a thing of the past. As the nation's largest coalition of conservation groups, TRCP brings together hunters, anglers, and conservation partners to make sure the future of waterfowl hunting stays strong. Learn more today and join the TRCP by visiting trcp.org. All right, and we are back. Jake, you've been in Minnesota now for several years. I apologize for this. It's just tongue-in-cheek joke, but you just got married. You got a kid on the way. And if I recall, for some weird reason, you have a golden retriever, which most people don't hunt with, but I
It's a
appreciate your.
toller.
You got a toller. Oh,
Yes, toller.
maybe I haven't been looking at it close enough. So, so you got a lot for a young biologist to balance and then find, kind of time to chase prairie pothole ducks. The kids come in what, August? So the hunting might
Yeah.
still work out next year, possibly.
I nothing's gonna slow me down.
Nothing's, you say nothing's gonna slow me down.
Nothing will slow me down. Yeah.
I love it. I
I'm like
love
you.
it.
I don't sit still well, and so we find time to do what we love.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. But congratulations on all that stuff in your life. You deserve it. You've worked hard for everything you got. But maybe give a rundown about those great experiences you've had and kind of you know, what are a few of the secrets out there for prairie pothole hunting?
Yes, yes. Thank you for the congrats. And I think one of the things that makes me successful, obviously scouting. You're going to hear that everywhere, but it's true. You can't really give tips away without saying it. It's very true. Going to the same duck blind on the same point every year, you're going to be the one complaining that there's less ducks. That's just the truth of it. And I don't do that. So
Hmm.
it'd be sure nice, and I'm sure I will someday when it's hard to get around. But that's big. I have a pretty flexible work schedule. At least if I plan ahead, I do.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, wife at home and family, they're understanding that if I say next Thursday and Tuesday or this coming Friday, I'm going, it's planning ahead,
Hmm.
and things are flexible, which is really nice. And working for Ducks Unlimited, I think one of our, when I started, they give you like, here's our 10 core values, and like number three is duck hunting. And working for a company that understands what your value is. I've worked for places where I'm like, I'm taking off Friday to go hunt, and they just kind of look at you weird. And
Hmm.
they don't understand. But working for DU that has that understanding, that's how I fill my cup, and that's how I come back to work rejuvenated. Is so helpful, so helpful.
Heck
And
yeah. I mean, I feel that so much is like you're working for it so hard and then to go experience it, right? I mean, you've
yeah,
got to you've got to have that. And yeah, I talk to students all the time about this. I'm like, the public has to interact with their environment because, and you probably even heard this on the in class at one point with me, is like if you don't have a way to interact with your environment, smell it, taste it, eat it, call at it, shoot at it,
yes,
like either why should you value it, right? And so that core value in DU, yeah, makes a big difference. You probably all also have like you're out there working on the landscape and you're in the office a lot for sure. Permits, paperwork is probably a big pile of this, but you do get out and see the landscape. So that's got to help you a little bit as
Mhm.
well with like kind of that, scouting component. It's not like you're using work time to scout, but you're already out there doing the work anyway. So you probably
Yeah,
have some sense of the migration and timing and all that stuff that's going on too. And where the habitat's at, right?
yeah. I think if I had to give a secret to scouting, it would be scouting starts all summer with habitat conditions, and
Hmm.
where are land managers doing controlled drawdowns? Where are they manipulating cattail? Where are they doing disturbances? What got to burn if you're a pheasant hunter?
Yeah.
All those things, and keeping even mental notes. If you gotta write it down, write it down. But I luckily in my position have a really good handle on what wetlands are getting any sort of habitat management in all of southern Minnesota.
Hmm.
And I know that those are going to be the best hunting lakes and wetlands in the next 3 years.
Hmm.
And so a lot of those are my projects, and I'm out there watching them, and I'm out there like actually working on them in November and see, yep, that corner's full of ducks. And so maybe I come back on Saturday, sort of thing. And
This is how I
I'm not
screw
the
this is how I screw myself with students too, is like so now I'm teaching my wetlands class every single spring and they have to write management plans, and the class went from like 12 students to 25 students. It's pretty popular, plus grad students, and so they've got all these projects they have to do. Well, a bunch of them are duck hunters, and then they learn about these spots and they learn about what a wetland looks like that's going to have ducks in it, that's getting a drawdown and everything. And
Mhm.
then I go to show up and they've been there since 3 in the afternoon the day before. They're already there. So, but there is something to be said
Yes.
for being in that environment and knowing your critter. We're gonna do. I'm actually. This is gonna be before your episode here. I'm doing a turkey a turkey tips episode again because it's turkey season. You know, some folks in the south didn't get their birds. Folks in the mid latitudes are going right now, and in the north, we're going to start. A lot of us around May 1st. But I find like I've got buddies that like I'm like, where are you going tomorrow? And they're like, oh, I'm going over this farm, and I've been like going every day and listening, right? And you know, the circle that these birds do, the toms and the hens with them, and I'm like, there's no birds over there right now. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not, but look, if you haven't done the time and get up each morning and go listen for birds or, you know, hoot like an owl in the evening to know where they're at and what the rotation is, I'm not
Hmm.
going to tell you. There's no, because, you know, I'm going over at another farm where I know where they're at. So it's a lot of this is about time. But Jake, it's also like, to what extent do you watch? Like, how does the weather influence your decisions in when you hunt on the prairies? Is it a big deal or is it not as much for you because they're breeding there? They're already there.
Yes. It's definitely a big deal if I'm gonna pick a weekday. Um, I'm definitely looking at a lot of times wind direction. They may be shoved up in this back corner of something, and the wind isn't right for them to for you to hide and them to come in there, even though they're gonna instead they're gonna land out farther and swim in.
Right.
Like it's
Right.
just not conducive to hunting. But yes, wind direction. It's always windy here. We almost never have no wind. I'm sure you experienced that.
Hmm.
So a lot of it's direction. Even some of like the bigger things like if it's a south wind, can I kayak across the north end? Or is there going to be a 2 foot wave?
Hmm.
It's always windy, so that's something. But um, I don't know as far as like sunny, cloudy, I don't notice a huge difference unless we're really shooting mallards, but we don't get a ton of like pure mallard shoots, it seems. It's we just have such diversity
Hmm.
on the prairies that you're gonna have a chance to shoot other ducks before you get four mallards. That's just how it is until it's late in the season.
Are you, you know, a lot of folks go out there with trailers and they do the big rig stuff and, you know, they get permission and they put out big field spreads. Have you bothered with that or are you mostly hitting pothole type stuff?
Almost exclusively water. We try fields when we can. In southern Minnesota, most things get tilled
Mm.
uh, be before the mallards really show up for field feeding, and they when the mallard wave comes, they don't actually stick around for very long. It's a 5 to 10 day thing. There, all that's left is the bigger lakes that are open, and they will field feed, but it's really unreliable, and they kind of change their patterns daily. There's just
Mm.
not like one great field. It occasionally you do. This year, the last 2 days of the season, we did have two good field shoots, but we tried it 2 days prior, and they flew over, went right back to the water they came from, just like
Yeah.
odd. And I I say this, one of my best friends is a farm manager for a large farm. They have over 10,000 acres, and so we have a lot of access, and almost none of it produces for us. So
Wow.
it's just field hunting down here isn't great. It really isn't
Hmm.
great. You get over into the Dakotas where they have less tillage, it's a little
Right.
better.
Yeah. 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 And some of that, and as you go north, some of that, you know, barley and wheat stuff that birds will get into more so than by you.
Mhm.
That's crazy that they're tilling. So there's really not a lot of no-till there. They're all tilling those fields. So turns into
Yeah.
kind of brown moonscape on you, huh?
Yes.
That stinks. Uh, how about like I remember in South Dakota sitting there and it was like right before Thanksgiving and that cold front was coming and it was just Scott like east to west, just ducks and geese. Met the
Mhm.
Grand Passage. Now this was like the late '90s when numbers were pretty darn sweet, you know. But have you had moments where you just see like it's a sunset and ducks are streaming out of town?
Yes, yes, we have that at least once a year. And there is a slough I love to hunt during those days. It's like a slough in this string of wetlands and lakes, and it's you're out of the wind, and it's awesome. But it is just like wedges of ducks and geese as high and as far as you can see all morning. And it's usually that first blizzard we get around, yeah, Halloween to mid-November. Um,
So it varies on the timing when they go, right?
uh, It yes and no. When that first big freeze hits, I mean,
Hmm.
there's some small freezes where the lows are 25, but then the first one comes and it's a blizzard and it's the low is 5.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that when that one comes, which is usually anywhere from Halloween to mid-November,
Hmm. Well,
it's
so
you
but
know
the
it's
point
coming.
is that like the event is the same thing they move on, but you got like a 3 week period there
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
kind of when it happens. I just
Yeah.
want to make that point. There's always got to be folks on social media that you bicker with, and there's a dude that is like, weather has nothing to do with migration, and I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot of science behind that, of which we've done ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all about like imprinting birds, and they just leave when breeding season's over, and they just fly south, and they're going where they're going to go. And I'm like, okay, that's there's nothing in the science that says that's happening. So I just wanted to like, I
Yeah.
mean, I was
Yeah.
baiting you into the conversation, Jake, but
No, I mean,
it's pretty
I
obvious to most
will,
people that weather is a thing with duck
it is.
migration.
It
So.
is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, Yeah, I love that time. I feel I got goosebumps just watching that big migration. And I went out the next day, and then there was just an absolute blizzard. I went with a friend that worked at the refuge, and we went and we just laid in the fields in whites and put goose decoys out and threw. I mean, it was covered in snow pretty quick, but it was like the blizzard would come, the wind would come. You just hunker down, couldn't see anything, and there were birds in the air trying to like land in the field to get like their last bit
Yeah.
of it was I think it was a cornfield, just to get the last bit of grain. And the snow would stop, and you'd look up, and there'd just be ducks all around you. You could almost grab them, like they were landing next to us. And you'd sit up, and like they'd open their wings. It was like a 30-mile-an-hour wind. They'd open their wings, and you get like one shot, right? Even
Yes.
though they're like
Yes.
only 10 yards away from you. But
Yes.
and then the next day, rock solid, everybody was gone. So
Hmm.
it's a neat experience, but it also, living in that cold, kind of, I would say, bleak part of the world that's relatively treeless at that time of year, it's a long winter too, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like a bittersweet moment where there's these great hunts, but then you're going into the long days of dark as well.
Yeah. I mean, when that freeze comes up here, ducks don't stay on the prairies. They know they're not gonna,
Hmm.
and that they can't, and so they go. And they know that there's better places south with palm trees and rice fields, and they're headed. And I don't blame them, but I mean, I won't we don't see a duck for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Literally don't see a duck. Like they're gone. And a lot of times people are like, they're still up north, and they're not. They're just not. Like we're
Yeah.
driving our
It's
trucks on
done.
those lakes. They're not here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's nice, and you remember this is from Central New York because we got those big, deep lakes and the Finger Lakes and stuff, and you can see ducks just about year round.
Hmm.
You can see ducks year round here between Lake Ontario and other stuff,
Yeah.
so it's not like an always shooting them thing, but you can see them. So, hey, I grew up listening to Gordon McQuarrie stories of the old duck hunters. We had the tapes in the lab at ESF.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've
Yeah.
listened as well, but and of course that's Wisconsin, right? In the stories of the old duck hunter, and Minnesota is a bit different, but there's some similarity in that part of the world. The Wisconsin's really that transition to prairie, and then Minnesota really starts to get into it. But from your experience and talking to old timers, like what's really changed in Minnesota over time, and I guess give me that perspective if you can talk about maybe the good old days, and maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe the good old days are now. I don't know.
Yeah, as an outsider from Illinois, Minnesota and Wisconsin are really that same kind of Northwoods Lakes country culture, and the hunting's the same. The Minnesota heyday that a lot of people think of, 60s, 70s, some early 80s, was when the divers were here, and
Hmm.
you could shoot six bluebills still. And some of our lakes still fill up with divers. DU's flagship project when we started here in the early 2000s was Lake Christina. And um, when Lake Christina's nice, there'll still be a couple 100,000 canvasbacks on it every year.
Hmm.
And so we do still have some hot spots, but almost every lake in southern Minnesota, I hear that that lake, Twin Lake, was a canvasback lake, and they just don't come here anymore. And it's true, they don't. And
Hmm.
um, I think what's changed is it may be cliche, but they've shifted west. And I'll explain. It's a small shift, but I'll explain it. So all of our lakes are pea soup mostly. All of our shallow lakes that are 5 foot deep or more are pea soup. They're full of sediment, nutrients, algal blooms, not full of submerged aquatics. Anything deeper than that might be clear, but than that 10, 12 foot, but that's not what diving ducks are looking for. So
And that's a water quality runoff problem mostly, right?
yes, it's that
Okay.
habitat. A lot of it's from the consolidated drainage,
Mm-hmm.
but but if you look at to the west in the Dakotas, they're having kind of an opposite where now from their drainage, there are all these little things that were small, seasonal, semi-permanent lakes that dried out every 10 years are now like expansive permanent lakes. There's farms underwater. If you drive through that Webster area, you'll see farms underwater everywhere. Those are all
Yep.
lakes in the last 10 years that were not really lakes before. And they're all early successional lakes because they're new, full
Mm-hmm.
of not fish yet, but full of invertebrates, full of submerged aquatics.
Hmm.
And it's a no-brainer for canvasbacks and bluebills to go there for those healthy lakes than to come here. I do see as far as like bluebill shooting, there's a couple lakes I like that have been recently invaded by zebra mussels, and I've noticed the bluebills are finding them.
Mm-hmm. Bluebills are insanely nomadic. We had a research project on with the, I mean, it's you, right? We banned it.
Mhm.
And after you banned it, everybody's like, oh, let's do telemetry with these. And I'm like, I don't want to touch this because these 30,000 bluebills that are in Great South Bay are not going to be here next year. And sure enough, right after you left,
They're
they
gone.
disappeared and they showed up down in Chesapeake Bay. And then folks at the University of Delaware were like, "Oh yeah, let's start doing a big telemetry project." And I'm like, "Don't do it." And
Yeah.
sure enough, their birds dried up. And then I don't know where they were last year. They were on the St. Lawrence River. They're super nomadic and they follow food. And like when zebra mussels show up,
Mhm.
great food resource, right? They love them and they're gonna hammer them and be on those for a while. That's cool. I'm glad you mentioned that because they are insanely nomadic birds as far
Yeah.
as
Ducks
following
have
food.
ducks have such a knack to find food and communicate it to others. It's wild. It's
Yeah.
truly wild.
Yeah, the communicate thing you got me, and I've studied a lot of duck behavior, and
Mhm.
I don't think any of us have really
No.
pinned that down. But Minnesota's the land of 10,000 lakes, but as you say, like a lot of them, I mean, Minnesota loves to dump fish in everything that
Oh
used to be
yes.
fishless as well. So, I
Yeah.
mean, the walleye fishing might be great, but it's really hurt the bluebills and the divers for,
Mhm.
putting fry in there that are gobbling up inverts that should have been there. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not a fight I want to pick, but I agree with this.
Not in Minnesota.
No, nope. No, I won't go there, but I completely agree with the sentiment and I see examples of it
Hmm.
often.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we'll take a quick ad break here, but this is the Hancock Seed ad, folks. Remember to get your pre-orders in for the Foul Weather by Hancock Seed Mixes. We have this really great proven deer food plot mix that feeds deer all year long, and our northern and southern waterfowl food plot mixes are just awesome. Check them out today at Hancock Seed, and in the Hancock Seed .com page, just search the term. You can just put fowl in FOWL or foul weather to find our mixes and get your orders in today. It is months until planting season, but your vision is already clear. The land is your passion, and Hancock Seed has your back. You plan food plots to feed and attract game in ways that matter for months. Live on your land with Hancock Seed. Today you plan, tomorrow you harvest. With Hancock Seed, you get family farm faith, nearly a century in the making. Hancock Seed has partnered with Foul Weather to produce 3 distinct seed blends. The Northern Deer Food Plot Mix, a proven combination that keeps deer coming all year round. The Southern Waterfowl Mix for carbohydrate-driven ducks. And the Northern Waterfowl Mix, built to succeed even in the toughest summers. Hancock Seed specializes from turf to plow and beyond. Find them today at hancockseed.com. That's hancockseed.com. So, Jake, plans for the coming season? Anything different than normal?
Yeah, probably with the kid coming here in August, right before our season starts. Um, but I don't know what that holds. That could mean a little more time off. That could mean a little less time in the duck blind. There's no telling what God's plans are for this fall, but I like to take a trip somewhere every year, and I've had visiting Aiden on the Texas coast on my to-do list for too long.
Hmm.
So that needs to happen soon.
So for listeners, Aiden Flores has been on the podcast actually. I think briefly. I want to get him on for a longer portion. He gave an expert update a couple of years ago for the Texas coast, but he and Jake were at ESF at the same time and both worked on Long Island. And Aiden now he has a guide service out of Rockport, Texas. So you should check that out. It's Heritage Flats. Heritage Flats is what it is.
Yep.
And Aiden also works for Delta Waterfowl Foundation. So definitely
Yeah.
would be great. I mean, I tried to go there one year and my truck broke
Oh,
down.
that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, Aiden and I were roommates there and on Long Island. We both did projects on Long Island and lived together there without cell service. And that was so much fun him and I had together there. But
well, and you
that
guys both published all your papers too. You published
yeah,
your Bluebill paper, and Aiden got two papers out of his master stuff on mallard black duck relationships on Long Island. So yeah.
yeah. So I need to get down there. Other than that, I don't know. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, I'd say keep keep the home life positive and make sure that's a number one, right? And then
Yes, yes, always priority.
sneak in your hunts there. Hopefully your dog doesn't get too bored. So what landed you on a toller and how you don't use it as a traditional toller, you just use it for retrieving or
Yeah, a toller. I think it was a DU magazine when I was like 15. Had some article about a duck tolling retriever. For those listeners that don't know, it's Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever, and they're a small retriever in the retriever family. Kind of look like a small golden, but the temperament is totally different than any of the retrievers. They, I think that's what really got me. It's this like temperament to always, they're always ready for an adventure, full of energy, but like have an off switch when we're inside and watching
hmm
TV. And um, I don't know if I would call it like they're not smarter than a lab, but they're like maybe a little less dopey. A lab might be it's not unheard of that your lab eats the gutters off your house, right? And
the lab always has a little bit too much of the dumb jock in them, I feel,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
so I don't have any of that with him, but he's sometimes just he's always ready for an adventure. And the size is what really, really sold me. I love a small retriever. He weighs 36 pounds. I can lift him with one arm. He rides in the back of the kayak with me, my gun, all the decoys, and we go. And it's easy. I have a buddy here who has like an 80-pound lab, and there's hunts where he can't bring the dog because the dog has to swim a mile, and he's not going to make the dog swim a mile just to get where we're going.
Yep.
And so that is smaller kennel, less room and that he takes up in our bed, like
Less
the whole
food. You save
less
50%
food.
on food through the lifetime of a
Yes,
dog, probably. Yeah.
yes, yes. But he's
Cool.
got a long coat, and that is with hardwood floors. I mean, there's just piles of hair everywhere, no matter what you do.
Pretty good with the cold or not so much with being small?
Yes, yes. Great with the cold. I mean, nothing affects him at all. He's a great pheasant hunter, loves it.
Huh?
Really good nose, like really, really understands the whole. He was not a cheap dog. I will say that. He came with the genetics to do it all. I just had to point him in the right direction. And
Hmm.
I didn't really realize that was a thing till I had him and realized what I paid for was like, oh gosh, this was awesome. And
Yeah.
um dog people can probably relate to that, but um
Yeah, we're on, I started with the Chesapeake I paid $500 for.
mhm,
And then we had a black lab out of breeding. It was actually Frank Rower's dog, who's
hmm,
chief scientist with Delta. Hopefully, I
yeah.
didn't get his title wrong. That was my wife's dog for a while. We had him in Maine and Mississippi, and that was another like I don't think we were barely rubbing nickels together, so that wasn't much. But then we went like $1,000 dog, $2,000 dog, $3,000 dog,
Yeah.
and we're tapped out. I mean, we're not going any higher
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
But it is amazing when you get them. You're like, it's almost instantly as a puppy, like you can see how much better of breeding you've got. Now you gotta work with health issues and stuff sometimes,
Right.
with those purebred dogs, but in even good genetics can throw some really weird health stuff in.
Yeah.
It's just the inbreeding that's going on a little bit, I think, right? But damn, they're good dogs. And it's like even us, we're like a trial by fire type, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
well, we got the general, steady and it brings stuff back. Let's just start shooting stuff.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how easy it is with a dog like that in general. So sounds like what you
Absolutely.
got.
Yeah.
And then
trained
where
them-
you're at too, it's like the amount of time they've got and the numbers of hunts they get as well makes a huge difference for you. So
Yeah. I trained him myself with YouTube University, and all myself, and that's another full-time job, learning and doing that. And I was kind of that sentiment, like, spent all this money, should I waste it training him myself? But
Right,
I had
right.
confidence in myself, and he will retrieve anything. And a funny story, we were back at my wife's family's dairy farm and had got some timber for Christmas one year, and I shot some squirrels across the neighbor's fence. So I lifted the fence and sent him in, and he went and retrieved all 3 squirrels and brought them back to me. I had no idea what he was doing, what he was looking for. And he just, oh, this smells like something we'll pick up. And that was
They're more
fun.
more
And you can train
universal.
that.
Yeah, more universal than you thought. I don't think mine would do that in the least. I mean, we got rabbits all over the farm. I'm glad they don't really chase them, but like the one dog, like they run across the trail and she'll take like 5 hard, steps at it, and it's like, yep, it's gone. So, which is
Yeah,
fine by me. But
that's perfect. Don't go
yeah.
any further. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Jake, thanks for being with us, and keep up the great work for the ducks, and good luck with everything with family and the new one coming and the dog and the duck season, and just keep up all that great work out there. This is the stuff, we talk about, like, where should you put your effort, and splitting hairs about seasons and shooting hens and all that is complete BS compared to the great stuff you're doing, putting acres on the ground, which is what's going to matter for the long-term health and sustainability of this waterfowl resource for all of us across duck country. So I don't know. I just get goosebumps when I see students doing, prior students that I worked with doing great work like you. And I just want to produce one after another, after another, after another, because it's how it keeps, it's how the duck train keeps going. So
Yeah.
I'm being long-winded, but just keep up the great work, buddy. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, thanks for having me. I hope I represented the duck biologist world well. Sometimes I think we get a finger pointed or a bad rap, but we're all duck people, as you say. Just marching forward with the best we can do.
Yeah, it's my Facebook handle. It's not my handle, whatever the saying or whatever you put in is it just says I went for a walk in the woods one day and I never stopped. And that's just because I grew up in the woods. It could be I went for a paddle in the marsh and I just never stopped. Right? It's just constantly getting up and trying to do the good work for the things that we all enjoy. Right?
Yeah.
And it just, what I love is it extends so far beyond us to all the other people out there as well. So anyhow, keep after it, buddy. Really
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. And as always, may your skies be filled and shoot straight, my friends.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm gonna give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.